What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into TTP Sports. And basically, as we all tune in to watch 11:30 a.m. Phillies baseball series finale against the Arizona Diamondbacks, we get a gigantic news break in the NHL world from Hockey News Hub and Anthony DeMarco of the Fourth Period. Hockey News Hub does a lot of great stuff with getting details from overseas, European, KHL, Russian players that, might be coming over to the NHL, that are signing in the KHL. He has a lot of great in-depth stuff over there. Not even that long ago, I would say maybe 10, 15 minutes ago, maybe around 11:30, we get a huge break. And it starts with Hockey News Hub because this man, my God, it started off, trying to get people's emotions up. It definitely did. So the first tweet from Hockey News Hub started 29 minutes ago, half an hour ago. He just did hashtag MM39. Obviously, Matvei Michkov, 39, the number he wears. And then he quote tweeted that in all capitals, saying that it might be happening with a hashtag Let's Go Flyers. And then he kept retweeting and commenting under his post saying, remember where you heard it if this is indeed true. There are major rumblings that Mitchkov is leaving SKA. And the first time in a while that he's heard rumblings. And then we finally got the confirmation from Anthony DeMarco of the Fourth Period. Big in terms of Flyers inside stuff. This is what he posts 18 minutes ago. I'm told that it looks like Matvei Michkov is leaving SKA and will be joining the Philadelphia Flyers. Mitchkov will now be represented by CAA, and credit to Hockey News Hub, who has been all over this story. As we all know, basically, I would say probably a few months ago, maybe around May. I feel like it was around Mother's Day or something like that, when we were first really starting to hear the rumblings about Mitchkov possibly leaving SKA to join the Flyers for this upcoming season. And then basically dwindled down. We didn't hear anything for a few weeks, and then we heard stuff from, the SKA president talking about how we probably will hear something around the end of June to where we do think it might be best for Mitchkov to maybe join the NHL roster to where he does get playing time in the NHL. We might think that's the best possible case for him. And then basically since then we haven't heard anything, but all Flyers fans and Flyers media knew that it was going to be sometime near the end of June. Sometime in June, we were going to hear something about whether Mitchkov is coming to Philadelphia or he's staying in Russia for another season. And we finally got the report, guys. We finally got the update that we were all dying for. I don't know if we were expecting to happen before the draft. I don't know if we were expecting all this stuff as Bryce Harper just missed a home run. It looked like off the bat it was going out. God damn you, cameraman. But God damn it. But we thought it was either going to happen before the draft or like directly after the draft. It's June 23rd. The draft's at the end of the week. The Stanley Cup Finals Game 7 is tomorrow. A lot of crazy stuff in the NHL happening this week, and it starts off with Matvei Michkov joining the Philadelphia Flyers, leaving Russia, and that just adds a whole new dynamic to this Flyers roster. We all know the stories around last year's draft with Matvei Michkov going into that draft, without all this, if he wasn't, playing in the KHL, if he wasn't, stuck with all the parameters revolving around Russia and all the political states and everything like that, he probably would have been the second overall pick in last year's draft. He was probably the second best player behind Connor Bedard in last year's very deep draft. And then he fell to number 7 to the Philadelphia Flyers. Granted, he also told some other teams that he was not going to play for them. He told Montreal he wasn't playing for them. He told Arizona he wasn't playing for them. San Jose, most likely, he told them he wasn't playing for them. He wanted to specifically play for the Philadelphia Flyers. And then basically out of nowhere, we found that the Flyers had like a secret meeting in the skate zone where they closed the entire skate zone. They bring in Matvei Michkov, his, family and all that stuff, meet some of the Flyers players, get adequated into the skate zone. Everything like there. basically they just kept that all under wraps. That's basically right now what this Flyers regime is doing. They're trying to keep everything under house. And that's basically what they've been doing with this Matvei Michkov situation. Every time you try to get Danny Briere or if Keith Jones or Dan Hilferty to answer something about it, they're basically just saying, we don't know anything. It's basically the same as it always been. Our plan right now is we expect Mitchkov to come over after his contract ends. But it's funny. They knew the entire time. They knew the entire time what was going on. Yeah, they physically couldn't do anything because, it's not in their jurisdiction. It's not in their power. Basically, the only thing the Flyers could have done was offer him an entry-level contract. It was up to Mitchkov and his agency to find a way to buy out his contract in Russia in order for him to come over to North America. And that was basically all the Flyers could do, was just wait and see. But they knew, they were talking. They were definitely having back and forth conversations between Mitchkov and his agent. They were dating updates. They all know that stuff there. So they knew the entire time what was happening. And I feel like this entire time it was kind of obvious that Mitchkov was coming over to Philadelphia. It just kind of seemed like it was just waiting to happen at this point. And that's basically what it was. It felt like it was waiting to happen at this point. And we're finally at that moment where Matvei Michkov is officially joining the Flyers. Fun stuff, guys. It's fun stuff. Possibly have a generational talent, a franchise centerpiece. He's 19 years old. We didn't really think he was coming over to North America this early. From the time of him being drafted, we thought, okay, maybe 2 years could be something, but most likely maybe after 3 years. That's when he officially comes over to Philadelphia. But nope, it's after 1 year. He's joining a Flyers team that has some young players, and they're still making moves. They're still, in this rebuild process, but does Matvei Michkov accelerate that process? We'll see how Danny Briere, operates during this offseason and how he does the draft. Does Danny Briere get more aggressive in the draft this year now that he knows that Mitchkov is coming over? We don't know. We don't know. I definitely do expect Danny Briere to show some type of aggression. Maybe that it revolves around the draft. Maybe that revolves around trades. So it definitely makes it more of an exciting and anticipated offseason for the Philadelphia Flyers. Granted, it was going to be an anticipated offseason, definitely an important offseason for the Flyers. But I think adding Matvei Michkov to that puzzle, and now knowing that he's officially going to be in Philadelphia for the foreseeable future, that just adds a whole different element. It definitely does to this offseason. Because this Flyers team was on the brink of making the postseason last year before their collapse. Maybe Matvei Michkov gets them into that stretch where they could possibly contend now to get into the playoffs. I'm not talking about contending for a Stanley Cup. This team is still way off the ways from that. But maybe Matvei Michkov, you had that star talent now. And yes, we still don't know what Mitchkov is going to be once he reaches the NHL. We don't know what type of player he's going to be. But this is all the projections. I'm talking about projections. I'm talking about ceilings. I'm talking about everything there. This guy projects to be a franchise centerpiece. This guy projects to be one of the best players in the NHL in the foreseeable future. He was very up there with Connor Bedard going into his draft. Like I said, if it wasn't for the political situations that were going on in Russia at the time, Mitchkov probably would have went higher in the draft. That is most likely the case. People were afraid to draft him, all of that stuff. They were nervous about him possibly not coming over from the KHL, and then he tells specific teams that I don't want to play for you. I want to go play for Philadelphia. So it's a great time, boys. It's a great time. I really did not expect when I'm just, waking up to watch Philadelphia Phillies baseball at 11:30. Very odd time for a baseball game, but, it definitely is very interesting. I was not expecting basically around that time for a gigantic bomb to drop that Mitchkov is joining the Flyers. That is absolutely some crazy stuff, as it looks like Suarez just grounds out into an inning double play. Sanchez is through 2 innings scoreless there. Nice job by Christopher Sanchez, the newly extended man. And we'll definitely get more into Phillies as this game ends, and that'll be the recap later on. So this is mainly Flyer stuff and everything like that, but great stuff, boys. This is amazing. And we got a retweet here by Frank Ciravelli, retweeting the Anthony DeMarco post. Everything is still fluid, which isn't a surprise, but Anthony is on the right track after a couple of months of negotiations. Expectation is that the 2023 7th overall pick, Matvei Michkov, is on his way to Philadelphia. And CAA represents Flyers Cam York, Alexei Gendron, Massimo Rizzo, Nick Sealer, Ivan Fedotov, Alexei Kolosov, and now Matvei Michkov. So those are the guys that CAA represents for the Flyers. Man, I can't believe this is time, boy. I can't believe it is. I can't believe it is. I can't believe we're at this moment. I can believe we're at this moment. But I can't. I can't. I can and I can't. I can and I can't. I was expecting, before all this stuff broke, basically a couple of months ago, that it was probably going to be, 2 years maybe. 2 years. I didn't expect after 1 year. I did not expect after 1 year, and we're here, man. And we're here. Jesus Christ. Oh, oh my God. My God. My God. And it's funny, too. I think a lot of Flyers fans have been posting, some major history in terms of, Flyers on June 23rd. I think this is, the anniversary of when they traded Jeff Carter and Mike Richards and all that stuff. They traded Scott Hartnell eventually a couple of years after that. And, a lot of stuff just happens for the Philadelphia Flyers on June 23rd, and now Matvei Michkov is officially joining the team. Jesus, this is some great stuff here, boys. And I do see that a lot of you right now are viewing this stream. I really appreciate that, whether it's new people, whether it's current people, you're leaving a like, you're talking in the live chat right now, and I'll get to you guys here in a little bit. Whether you want to leave a voicemail or a text message at the number down below on your screen, 215-839-9885. I want it back and forth, talk with you guys here on this. Also, if you, like I said, if you're new to the stream, if you're a new viewer, hockey fan, Flyers fan, Matvei Michkov fan, or anything like that, definitely I recommend you hitting that subscribe button, because Flyers season is going to be even insaner now that Matvei Michkov is here, and it's going to be fantastic. And we are definitely this week are going to have a stream, live reacting to the NHL draft. That's definitely something we've been doing for the past couple of years. So we're definitely going to be doing that again. So just be prepared for that, boys, and be prepared, because there's still a lot of, rumors and discussions about, what Danny Briere is going to be doing for the draft this Friday. And oh, man, I can't wait now. I can't wait for the draft. I can't wait for the draft this week. I just can't. I just can't wait for the draft. My God. I can't wait. I can't wait for the draft now. Flyers fans, get your Mitchkov merchandise. I'm sure once you get the official post from the Flyers, I don't think it's going to happen probably for a couple of days here for Mitchkov, but and it looks like Alec Bohm with a leadoff double, and then Nick Castellanos drives him home to give the Phillies an early 1-0 lead. Love to see that from the boys. Love to see that from the offense. Offense exploded yesterday, so I'm expecting some big things today. Nice leadoff double there for Bohm and Nicky C driving him in. Love that. Love that, love that, love that. Get some run support for Christopher Sanchez. But sorry, I have the Phillies on in the background, and I got to stay in tune to it as I'm talking about this entire thing. So hopefully you can understand that if you're not a baseball fan, or if you're always a viewer of this channel and everything like there. So yeah, it's fun stuff. I see right now we have over 20 people watching this. So man, I appreciate this. I appreciate this right now. This is some fun stuff. Let's just go over Mitchkov right now. So let's go to his elite prospect page. So this was his little bit of summary of what type of player he is. This is from his 2023 draft summary. The rare triple threat winger, Mitchkov is a constant threat to find the back of the net. His puck skills are near the top of the draft, owing to immense creativity, hip pocket handling, dexterous hands, and a never-say-die attitude. You may think that you have him, but most of the time you really don't. His ability to problem-solve his way out of defensive pressure is at a level all of its own. Mitchkov creates plays on the ice that we can't even fathom with the benefit of a bird's eye view. That's his 2023 draft guide from Elite Prospects. And there's these are some old comments on him. Jacob, yeah, he's actually coming, Jacob. There's no more smoke. There's no more smoke. He's actually coming. If you didn't join in here earlier, The news broke from Hockey Hub, Hockey News Hub on Twitter, and Anthony DeMarco at the fourth period. They were both basically, Hockey News Hub has been covering this entire situation for a while now, and he's been very in tune to everything that's been going on with over in the KHL with Mitchkov's situation. And Anthony DeMarco just confirmed basically the entire thing. He's coming over to Philly. He's coming to Philly. Basically, a couple of months ago, you saw that report from Hockey News Hub talking about everything there. And then basically a couple of weeks after that, you saw the stuff from SKA's team, their president, talking about, what's best for Mitchkov. And most likely you'll hear something around the end of June in terms of what's going to happen with him. And now we're here. Everything is basically confirmed at this point. We really won't see anything from the Flyers' perspective until he officially does come over, which probably will be around draft time. So I'm sure Matvei Michkov will be at the draft with the Flyers. I'm sure he'll be at the draft table. I'm sure everything right there. It's going to be crazy stuff. It's going to be crazy stuff. Like, this is great times here. This is fantastic times here to be a Flyers fan. To be a Flyers fan right now. And big stuff just with the NHL. And, this is big for the NHL. This is another future superstar coming over into the league from Russia. It's fantastic stuff. It really is. And I keep saying this, going into his draft year, if it wasn't for what was going on in Russia, for the fear of him being a Russian player, of him, possibly not coming over, he would have been the second overall pick in last year's draft. If it wasn't for all that stuff, he would have been drafted behind Connor Bedard. So that's how highly touted this kid is. So that's how amazing this is right now. That's how amazing this is right now. I'm trying to see if there's anything here. Yeah, more stuff about CAA. So this is also from Danny Briere a couple of days ago when he did have that interview, basically from Danny Briere's press conference the other day. It was more just, traditional GM speak. He really wasn't saying too much. And then this was, of course, they were going to ask him stuff on Matvei Michkov. So this was Briere on Mitchkov. If they tell us he's coming on September 1st, we'll jump on it. The mindset for us, we're going into next season without him. He has 2 years left on his contract. If something changes from today until then, we'll be certainly happy. Danny Briere knew what was going on. Danny Briere really knew what was going on behind the scenes. Obviously they couldn't tell us anything because they didn't want to screw anything up with everything that was going on over there. Because, like I said, the Flyers really had no control over this. They were really just waiting for Mitchkov and his agent to find a way to get the contract bought out, or just an agreement between him and SKA to, terminate the contract. So that would be basically the situation right there. The Flyers, all they can do is offer him an entry level. And so far, yeah, they'll give him his entry level contract once it gets over here. And that'll be a standard entry level contract. You got him on a league minimum basically for 3 years, and you could build your team around him, which obviously was Danny Briere and Keith Jones are trying to do. And I wonder how this does impact the draft. I definitely do. I can definitely see some aggressive things here from Danny Briere and Keith Jones this offseason to make things really enticing for this Flyer squad going into 2024. It definitely could make things really interesting. It just is the case. So if we go back to his elite prospect page, just look at his couple of years here playing over in Russia. So this is going back all the way to 2018-19 when his stats were first documented. So his first year in 2018-19 with an under-16 team with Lokomotiv Yaroslav, he had put up 10 points in 7 games. Then he put up 109 points in 26 games in an under-16 league in 2019-2020. Then in the MHL, in his first season, basically, I guess he split between 2 teams or something like that. For the first team in the NHL, St. Petersburg, SKA, Varyagi, St. Petersburg, he put up 4 points in 6 games. And then for SKA 1946 St. Petersburg in the MHL, he put up 52 points in 50 games, 35 goals, 17 assists. He had 3 points in 5 playoff games. And then in the KHL in 2021-2022, in 13 games, he put up 5 points. And then he was sent back down to the MHL, put up 13 points in 6 games, then 38 points in 22 games. And then in 2022-2023, he played 3 KHL games, really wasn't given that much ice time. Then he was sent down to the VHL for SKA Neva State St. Petersburg, 14 points in 12 games. Then he was loaned to HK Sochi in the KHL. He put up 20 points in 27 games on a very bad Sochi team. He was basically the only reason they were even relevant at that point. And yeah, he looked really good. And then this year for Sochi, he put up 41 points in 47 games for, once again, another very bad Sochi team. Another loan from SKA St. Petersburg, because there's basically, they just didn't have any room for him. KHL, it isn't a developmental league, so they're going to focus on, veterans and all that stuff, people that they think deserve to be in the lineup. They're not here to develop Matvei Michkov, regardless of how fantastic of a talent he is. They're trying to focus on everything else. Also in 2022-2023, in the MHL playoffs, he had 7 points in 5 games. So, some great stuff here. And he really hasn't been able to showcase his stuff with the World Juniors. He did play in the World Juniors in 2021-2022 before they got canceled because of all the COVID stuff. He put up 3 goals in 2 games. So it kind of sucks that we really haven't been able to see Mitchkov in international competition at this point. So that kind of sucks at the end of the day. But if you want to look at some of his tournament statistics, 2016, 2017, District Cups, I'm assuming this is all Russian stuff. The Gretzky Cup, he put up 13 points in 5 games for Team Russia. It's just, he's a fantastic player. He's a fantastic player. That's basically what it is at this point. He's a fantastic player. Whoa, what just happened? Yeah, Corey, Mitchkov's coming over. Mitchkov is coming over. It is official. Mitchkov is coming over. We finally have something about it. He is coming over to the NHL. He is coming over to the Philadelphia Flyers. It's great stuff here, boys. It's great stuff that we're seeing out here. I'm not. Joe, I'm not. If you go on Twitter right now, go to Hockey News Hub and go find Anthony DeMarco of the 4th period. These guys have been, Hockey News Hub has been under this entire thing for months. Since basically Mitchkov was drafted. He's got sources over in Russia. He's been under this for the entire time, and everything is coming to fruition. And then Anthony DeMarco basically just confirmed it. Anthony DeMarco has some great NHL sources, especially with the Flyers. He covers Flyers more, but he covers the NHL, but he has a lot more Flyers stuff in tune with him. And Anthony DeMarco has a lot of great things revolving the Flyers, and he basically just confirmed the entire process. So that's where we're at, man. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. Oh man. Oh man. It's happening, boys. It's happening. It is happening. He's coming over. What are the terms of the contract? The Flyers have yet to sign him to an entry level. So entry level contract, it'll mainly be league minimum for a rookie deal, 3 years. So in those 3 years, Danny Briere and Keith Jones have to find a way to maximize those 3 years and find a way to build a contender around him. That's basically what it is. I have mixed feelings. I'm glad he's coming over here and we don't need to... Why do you have mixed feelings? Why do you have mixed feelings, man? Be excited. Be excited. You got a future generational talent coming over to Philadelphia. When was the last time the Flyers had a future generational talent? Claude Giroux, great player. He wasn't a generational talent. The last generational talent to play for the Flyers was Eric Lindros. And the Flyers didn't even draft him. They had to trade for him because he didn't want to play for Quebec. So, and yeah, Eric Lindros, generational talent, fantastic players, one of the best players in Flyers history. We haven't had that since then. And we drafted Mitchkov. Granted, yes, he fell in our laps because teams were afraid to draft him, and he told specific teams, I'm not playing for you. I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care. The Flyers got some young talent. They got some young pieces. They were very close to making the playoffs besides their collapse at the end of the year. If Mitchkov was on the team last season, do they miss the playoffs? Do they miss the playoffs? I don't know. I don't know. Well, the Flyers are not going to be in the position to get lottery picks. They're not going to be in a position to make lottery picks. The Flyers are not going to be in a position. They're not bad enough to be top of the lottery. They're not in that position. They got Mitchkov now. They got Tippett locked up. They got a young Tyson Forrester who showed some good things. They got Cam York, who showed a big leap in his development last season. Jamie Drysdale, we'll see what he can be in a healthy season, hopefully. The goaltending question mark definitely is still there. They got some young pieces. They still got Noah Cates that could play in the bottom six. That could be a good two-way threat. Morgan Frost, we'll see what happens. And Danny Briere is going to make moves. Danny Briere is obviously going to make moves, whether that's being very aggressive at the draft, being very aggressive in terms of trades. Danny Briere is going to be aggressive this offseason. I can firmly believe that. He's going to make moves. They're not going to stand still. They're not going to come back next season with the same exact roster. There's going to be some changes here. Scott Walton's not going to be a Flyer next year. I firmly believe that. Cam Atkinson's most likely not going to be on the Flyers next year, so that's some roster spots moved off. This team is in a good position, in my honest opinion. I think they are. Some people are really disappointed in this team for not tanking, for not, getting high draft picks and all that stuff. There's other ways to build NHL rosters without tanking. I feel like some Flyers fans are in the motive of just tank. Caper, what are you talking about? Nobody's reporting that Anthony DeMarco works for the fourth period. He's got a lot of... Frank Siravalli literally just retweeted it and saying it's in motion. I don't know what you're talking about. So you're a troll. I'm not listening to you. I'm not listening to you. I am not listening to you. It would be a lot more confident if this team had heart. And Cutter Gauthier didn't want to play for the Flyers. Cutter Gauthier is a piece of shit. Carter Hart's a piece of shit. So you can't control those situations. You can't. Cutter Gauthier is an asshole. He's entitled. I don't want that near my team. Carter Hart, he's a piece of shit. You can't control that. Sadly. Caper Boy, not jumping the gun. It's literally been reported by multiple sources here. I don't know what you're talking about. What else we got here? Renee, how you doing, man? Haven't heard from you in a little bit. Yeah, I'm sure you're very excited, man. Let's hope it has the opposite effect because all the events don't benefit the goal of a cup. For us, the other team... Yeah, we'll see, guys. We'll see. Lindros was not worth the trade. Was a big mistake to do. I wouldn't say that, man. I wouldn't say that. It's not. It definitely isn't guaranteed. The Flyers roster built around. Yeah, they did have the Flyers did draft Peter Forsberg. Peter Forsberg did go on to be a Hall of Famer, but he was also very injury riddled in his career. Yeah, the Avalanche ended up winning 2 cups because of that trade. But it's also not guaranteed the Flyers win 2 cups in that perspective. It definitely isn't guaranteed. It is what it is. Maybe something via... I don't think the Flyers have the assets to trade one for the Boston goaltenders. Guys, this is still a work in progress. I'm not saying the Flyers are instant Stanley Cup contenders. This is still a couple of year process here. I think just having Mitchkov here, learning the NHL game, developing with the Flyers, he's going to get top line minutes. Tortorella understands the process here. Tortorella even stated last year that he's preparing this team to play with Mitchkov. That's basically it. Mitchkov, he wants to style the team's game around Mitchkov. That's basically what it was. If Gauthier becomes a 40-goal scoring center in Anaheim and Drysdale is just a blah defenseman, I'm going to lose my mind. We can't say that yet. You can't control that situation, Corey. In that situation, Danny Briere did the best that he could under a very difficult situation. Jamie Drysdale is a good defenseman. Is he on talent to what the potential of Cutter Gauthier can be? Probably not. But I think Jamie Drysdale can be a very good top 4 defenseman in your system. I think he can, in your defensive core. I think he can. He's a guy that could be on the power play. He's a guy that can control the offense. He has great offensive instincts. It's the matter of him staying healthy. That's the key. That is the key. It's a matter of him staying healthy. I think a lot of people are just downgrading of what the type of player Jamie Drysdale is. I think he could be a really good defenseman in this league. I'm not talking Norris caliber or anything like that. I think he could be a very good top 4 defenseman in your core. I think that. And we all know that Keith Jones, he wants to build from the blue line up. You got Cam York. You got Jamie Drysdale. You got Travis Sanheim on the contract, and we'll see what happens with that in the foreseeable future. You got some young guys. You got Oliver Bonk in the pipeline. You got Emil Andre in the pipeline. I'm sure the Flyers are going to do something with defensemen around in this draft, so we'll see what happens there. They got the Hunter The guy that they just brought into the AHL this year, Hunter McDonald. Hunter McDonald. They just brought him into the AHL this year. Keith Jones is very high on him, so we'll see what happens around there. There's pieces around here. I think people are just downgrading that stuff. There's interesting pieces. Yeah, the goaltending, duo right here with Ersson and Fedotov is definitely going to be question marks. They're going to roll with Fedotov and Ersson this year and see what happens. They got Kolosov in the pipeline. They got the other Russian kid in the pipeline. They got Bjarnason in the pipeline. I'm sure they're going to be drafting more goaltenders. You can never just have enough goaltenders in your pipeline because at the end of the day, one of them does have to hit. This is still a work in progress. We have to understand that the Flyers are just not going to instantly be cup contenders once Mitchkov is here. That's not going to be the case. So we have... I feel like you're very lukewarm on this, Corey. I feel like you're very lukewarm. I'm kind of disappointed in you. I thought you'd be more excited. Personally, I thought you'd be more excited. This should be a time to not criticize here, people. This should be a time to be excited. Just be excited that Mitchkov's coming over. That's what it should be. That's what it should be. If I'm looking at the Flyers roster right now, hopefully I can use cap. I think cap friendly is still a thing right now until it goes away. Cap friendly is still a thing. Yeah, it definitely is still a thing until it goes away after the draft. Let's see. So you still got Owen Tippett. He's locked up. We'll see what happens with Travis Konechny. You still technically got Joel Farabee, but I wouldn't be shocked if Joel Farabee is a trade piece in a hockey trade. Scott Walton definitely isn't going to be a Flyer next year. I can firmly guarantee that. Cam Atkinson is not going to be. You got Tyson Forrester. You got Paling, who's a very solid bottom six player. Morgan Frost, we'll see how he continues into next season. I'm sure he might be on the Flyers roster. He might not be. Yeah, there's some pieces for the Flyers here to move that are probably not going to be on the team next year. Couturier is going to be on the team next year. Tippett's going to be on the team next year. Konechny most likely. Farabee is a 50-50 chance in my opinion. Lawton, I don't think he's coming over. I don't think he's going to be on the team next year. What else? Morgan Frost, I think, is 50-50, but I think he's on the team more than not, in my opinion. What else? Paling, obviously. Forrester, obviously. And for the defense, Sanheim's going to be on the team. Sealer's going to be on the team. Drysdale's going to be on the team. York's going to be on the team. I think the Flyers, I'm not sure about Yegor Zamula. Eric Johnson, they might bring him back as just a veteran presence there. And for the pipeline, they got some players down there in the pipeline. They got Massimo Rizzo, so we'll see what happens after coming over from college. They got Denver Parkey in the pipeline, even though he's probably going to be playing in the OHL again for another season. What else? They got Tuulamala. We'll see what happens with him. Who else? They got Bobby Brink's still a part of this team, so we'll see how further he develops. Hunter McDonald. They got Emil Andre. They got Oliver Bonk in the pipeline. We'll see what happens with Oliver Bonk if he goes back to the OHL again for another season. They got some pieces here, guys. They got some pieces. There's still a lot of work to do. I'm not denying that. There's still a lot of work to do. And I think Danny Briere can figure out a way to do that. We'll see. And we got something right here. A guy from Elite Prospects, Cam Robinson. He's one of the directors of Elite Prospects. It won't be long before Matvei Michkov completely transforms the Flyers offense. His skill is on another level. So we got it here, boys. We're good. Well, Corey, you got to understand this too. The Flyers were trying to trade hard. They were trying to get out of this situation because they probably knew that it was coming at some point. The Carter Hart thing you can't control because Carter Hart's a scumbag. So you can't control that. Cutter Gauthier, all of a sudden, because Chuck Fletcher wasn't part of the regime anymore, Chuck Fletcher probably guaranteed Cutter Gauthier after one season in college playing time. Danny Briere says, okay, hold your horses. We're not going to rush you yet. We don't think you deserve the playing time. It might be more beneficial for you to go back to college. And that rubbed Cutter Gauthier the wrong way to where he just wouldn't give the Flyers his thought of day, to where you have John LeClair and respective Flyers, Patrick Sharp and John LeClair, respected players in the National Hockey League. You don't even give those guys the time of day. You force your head coach to go tell them you're not talking to him. Cutter Gauthier is an entitled piece of shit. Cutter Gauthier has a lot of talent. Cutter Gauthier is also an entitled piece of shit. That's what it is at the end of the day. Jamie Drysdale, regardless of what you want to think about the trade, Jamie Drysdale, I think, is a good defenseman. He was a top draft pick for the Anaheim Ducks. He was a 6th overall pick. Yeah, he's had some injury issues the past couple of seasons. He's still very young. We also can't forget about that. He's still very young in this league. Jamie Drysdale is. He's still very young. He's only 22 years old. He's a year younger than Cam York. We got to remember that. Jamie Drysdale is still very young. So injuries in the early stages of your career, you could probably get better from those injuries as you get older. So we got to see. We got to see what happens there. It's not guaranteed that Cutter Gauthier breaks out with Anaheim. It definitely isn't. It's possible that he does. It's just the fact that Cutter Gauthier is going to have a huge transition bump into the NHL. We're going to have to wait and see. The Flyers, I think, did what they best they could under a very terrible situation, in my opinion. So, it is what it is. It is what it is. Fedotov, we'll see. We'll see what Fedotov is, Renee. Definitely, obviously, last year when he came over into the NHL, definitely was a tough adjustment period for him. Definitely was not expecting him to succeed in major aspects. I think, yeah, definitely a year for him with being in the States for over a year, being able to train over here, getting his strength back up, because you also got to remember of him, being in the Army, missed a year off of hockey and all that stuff. Definitely is something that, it definitely is good for him to train over here and get better prepared. We'll see. We'll see. Ersson, yeah, Ersson's not a world beater. I think he's a solid goaltender in this league. But yes, compared to a lot of the other teams that have great goaltending, yes, Ersson does not compare to that. But this is more of a 1A, 1B type of situation, I think, with these two guys. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. Definitely. Just be excited for Mitchkov. That's basically it right now. Danny Briere, there's a lot of talk about him possibly moving up in the draft this year. We'll see what happens. He's going to be aggressive. What do you think they do in free agency this year? I don't think they do much in free agency. I think a lot of stuff revolves around the trade market. A lot of the stuff this year for the Flyers revolves around trades. Because free agency, there really isn't that much. There really isn't that much in revolved to a free agency this year, in my opinion. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I think a lot of the things for the Flyers revolves around trades. Because there's definitely some players that you could probably entice some teams. Obviously, Trevor Zegras is a name out there. Who else? Nietzsche is a name out there from Carolina. Cole Perfetti, possibly Marco Rossi. There's some names out there that are intriguing names. Young players that probably don't fit on their rosters anymore or anything like that. Trevor Zegras, they're lingering his name out there because Anaheim probably thinks they can afford to lose him because they got so much other forward depth at that position, basically. What else? Carolina, they probably don't think they can afford to keep Nietzsche's, and Nietzsche's isn't happy in Carolina. Marco Rossi definitely hasn't been given much with Minnesota and maybe needs to change of scenery. And Cole Perfetti, same thing with Winnipeg, really hasn't been given that much time to flourish there. He's been really playing in the bottom six, and he really hasn't been given a chance there. So we'll see what happens here with the trade market, definitely. Danny Briere is going to be active. Danny Briere is going to be active in terms of the trade market. I don't think he's going to be active hugely in free agency. I don't think that's going to be the case. So we'll see. So we'll see. But guy, it's be excited. I think that's the case here. Be excited. Joe says again. I think at the that's tough. That's tough. Because if we're looking at the draft this year, there are specific players that I am looking at. I'm looking at for the Flyers. I would say 4 players, maybe 5, maybe if you want to put that in there. 5 players that I'm looking around for the Flyers. That is Berkeley Catton if he does fall. That is Konsta Helenius. That is Cole Yzerman. If the Flyers do move up in the draft, I think they go after Sam Dickinson if he does fall to that spot in 7 because, a lot of talks between them and the Ottawa Senators. If the Flyers do trade up, I think they're trading up for Sam Dickinson or Carter Yakimchuk. I think that's one of the other players. So that's 2 defensemen, 3 forwards that I'm looking at. Berkeley Catton, does he fall to the Flyers? Possibly. I'm not sure. Does he fall to 12? I'm not sure. Iginla, I don't see Iginla not being drafted by Calgary. I just don't see that happening in my opinion. It's too hard not to see that happen in my opinion. Him not being drafted by the Calgary Flames just with all the stuff with his father, the heritage stuff and all that everything there. I think it's just too good for them to pass up on, in my honest opinion. What else? What else? Hellenius, I think in terms of players that might fit very good with Matvei Michkov, I think you're looking at Berkeley Catton and you're looking at Konsta Hellenius. Cole Iserman, he's definitely one of the best pure goal scorers in the draft. So that definitely is something you would always want to love to have to your roster. Dickinson, he's definitely going to be one of the top defensemen taken in this draft. It just determines on where he goes, because there's definitely going to be a few defensemen taking in the top 7, I believe, in the top 10. So there definitely is some question marks there. Dickinson, he's on the London Knights. He's played with Oliver Bonk. I believe he's Oliver Bonk's line mate, so there's definitely a lot of familiarity there. Keith Jones, very familiar with Sam Dickinson. He loves Sam Dickinson. Carter Yakimchuk, defenseman for the Calgary Hitmen, I believe, put up a lot of points this year, so there's definitely some intrigue around that as well. So, yeah, Dickinson is the defenseman. Dickinson is the defenseman. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Flyers, if they do trade up, they go out and get him. I wouldn't be shocked if that's the case. If Florida completes the epic choke we get, if Florida does lose tomorrow in Game 7, if they blow that 3-0 lead, if they get reverse swept, yes, the Flyers do get the 31st pick instead of the 32nd. So yeah, a lot of stuff there. It's good stuff here, boys. Some good stuff. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Trevor Zegras is a Flyer. I wouldn't be shocked if Danny Briere tries to swing on that. Would not be shocked. Would not be shocked. He's good friends with Jamie Drysdale, so I'm sure Trevor Zegras would love being a Flyer. I hope Gensel goes to Vancouver and I only have to see him twice a year. I'm not worried about where Jake Gensel goes, in my personal opinion. Not really worried about that. Trying to see if there's anything else here on the Twitterverse. Just a lot of people doing emergency stuff. Here's also something interesting in revolving around the Cup final tomorrow, Game 7. Sergei Bobrovsky was not at Panthers practice today. It's not something common. He's usually the first goaltender out for practice. It was just Spencer Knight and Anthony Stolarz at practice for the Panthers. Does Paul Maurice make a change in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final and Bobrovsky doesn't start? That's... Hawks fan here. Do you think the news and the fact that Demidov agent said only 1 year in Russia gives a big edge for number 2 at the Hawks? Honestly, the last thing I heard in regards around Demidov, I did see the fact that a lot of expectations. He did say that he expects to play 1 more year over in the KHL because he only does have 1 more year left on his contract, and he's coming over to the NHL. The last thing I also did see was that Chicago might be looking for defensemen. That was the last thing I saw out of Chicago, so I'm not sure. I'm not really sure there, honestly. At least we avoided the worst case scenario. Doesn't rush him, doesn't lock him up for no reason. I think Mitchkov was coming over regardless. I think it was. I think Mitchkov was coming over regardless. I think so. So what else is going on here? Let's see. Anything on the Twitterverse here? Anything on the Twitterverse? So let's see. Let's see. This is from Charlie O'Connor. It turns out the Flyers are only going to have to wait 1 year for Mitchkov. Originally, the expectation was 3 years. Obviously, only time will tell if Mitchkov lives up to the hype, but Briere's big swing at last year's draft sure looks like to be paying off. Which would be worse for Florida, losing tomorrow night or the Falcons 28-3? Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. I would have... I'm not sure what's worse. I'm not sure what's worse. Because for the Florida Panthers situation, you were up 3-0. You have 4 games to clinch a Stanley Cup. You have 1 game. For the Falcons, it was a 1-game elimination. Yeah, you were up 28-3. You shouldn't be choking that. I don't know. I think in regards to an entire series, losing 4 in a row, I think getting reverse swept is worse, in my honest opinion. I think getting reverse swept is worse. Just because it's such a rare thing to happen. in the sports world. It's such a rare thing. I think getting reverse swept is worse. I think it is. In my personal, I think getting reverse swept is worse. Watch this ends up like Watt in the Montreal, and he demanded a trade that comes home to win cups and gets the dynasty as a reward for the sports gods for years in pain and suffering. Who are you talking about, that loyalist? Who are you talking about specifically? Who are you talking about specifically? So Phillies, they're in the top of the fourth inning, still 1-0. No outs in the top of the fourth. Base runner on against Christopher Sanchez facing Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Yeah, I do believe as a team the Panthers are better than the Oilers, but right now the Oilers have everything going for them right now. Stuart Skinner's playing really good. The Oilers' power play is dynamic. The Oilers' penalty kill has been fantastic. And Connor McDavid and Leon... Connor McDavid is shattering records in the playoffs this year. Christopher Sanchez has got another double play. Fantastic stuff there. What is Connor... I need to see the NHL playoff points. I need to see stat leaders for the postseason this year. Connor McDavid has 42 points. Connor McDavid has 42 points in this year's playoffs. If Edmonton were to lose, Connor McDavid deserves to win the Conn Smythe regardless, in my opinion. I'm sure Connor McDavid would love to win the Conn Smythe and the Cup at the same time, but we'll see. Fun fact, there are photos of McDavid in a Phillies jersey, by the way. It was for a promotional thing in 2016 and for the draft. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, you also got to think a bit right here. The Flyers definitely are going to be more aggressive. Right now, they still do have a lot of dead cap. They still do have a lot of dead cap, so that's going to be a little bit difficult to circumvent some things. So they still got Cam Atkinson for another year. They got some dead cap on certain trades. I believe they have dead cap on Kevin Hayes' trade, if I'm not mistaken. I got to see this again for salary retentions and buyouts. I got to see. Yeah, they still got Rasmus Ristolainen on LTIR. They got Ellis on LTIR. They got Ristolainen still on injured reserve. Who else? They bought out Tony DeAngelo. This will be the last year of Tony DeAngelo's buyout. They got 2 more seasons of Kevin Hayes' contract as well on the salary retention. So yeah, there's some dead cap on this team that they're still waiting to get off. Cal Peterson's contract, that's the last year of his contract right there. They're still trying to figure out if they have to qualify Carter Hart. Hopefully, I don't think they have to. What else? They're definitely trying to get out of the Cam Atkinson contract. They're trying to get out of the Scott Laughton. Even though Scott Laughton's contract isn't terrible, it isn't egregious whatsoever. But I wouldn't be shocked if Scott Laughton isn't a Flyer next year. Yeah, the Flyers are definitely up at the cap. They definitely are. They got around $800K in cap. They're around $6 million in LTIR cap space, and they could be around $7 million at LTIR cap space. So yeah, they're probably going to have to fluctuate with the LTIR cap a little bit. Yeah, they got some dead cap here, so they're definitely going to have to make some hockey trades to trade away some contracts here. So there definitely is some stuff here. Let's see. I don't think there's anything else. Interesting stuff here, boys. Interesting stuff. Fun stuff, actually. Fun stuff here, boys. Freaking, yeah. Tomorrow's going to be insane in terms of Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Honestly, should I freaking live stream tomorrow's game? Would you guys join to watch that Game 7? React to that? I might honestly do it. Because it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing that happens. And we really don't see it often in the NHL. We really don't see the Stanley Cup Final go into Game 7 often. I think the last time the Stanley Cup Final went to Game 7 was 2019. So it's been a few years. It's definitely been a few years. And you really don't get to see the opportunity for a reverse sweep that often. The last reverse sweep in the NHL was 2014, then it was 2010 for the Philadelphia Flyers, and then you're going back all the way to the freaking 80s and the 70s for the previous reverse sweeps. There's only been 4 reverse sweeps in NHL history, so the Kings were the last to do it against the Sharks. The Flyers did it obviously against the Bruins in 2010. I think the Islanders did it and the Maple Leafs did it. Islanders, I think they did it in the 70s, and the Maple Leafs did it the last time they won the Stanley Cup, if I'm not mistaken, in the 60s. So yeah, it's definitely been something there. Long shot, but McDavid is a free agent after 2026. Are the Flyers saving up for the chance to sign him? I wouldn't be shocked if that's the case. But you also got to handle, if McDavid wins the Stanley Cup at Edmonton, I think he's staying at Edmonton the rest of his career. I think that's the case, in my opinion. But yeah, no doubt. I wouldn't be shocked if Danny Briere is trying to save up for a big free agent splash in the future, freeing up some cap space. I wouldn't be shocked. Here we go. There's something here as well. Anthony DeMarco, he just posted something on Konechny's situation. Have to imagine Mitchkov's arrival will significantly help the Flyers leverage in contract negotiations with Travis Konechny's camp. Interesting. Interesting. That is interesting. That is very interesting. Let's see. Yeah, I'm sure. I think Mitchkov's going to be at the Flyers draft table. I personally believe that. Yeah, Snyder did try to get Gretzky, no doubt. Flyers were definitely one of the last two teams, I think, in terms of possibly trading for Gretzky, but Gretzky's dad convinced Wayne to play in LA. So that was Gretzky's dad convinced Wayne to go to LA to grow the game more. So it was definitely between the Flyers and the Kings, basically, at the end of the day. So yeah, it would have been I wonder what the NHL landscape would have been differently if Gretzky did play for the Flyers. That definitely would have been interesting. Flyers probably never would have had a Lindros at the end of the day, if that was the case. But yeah. So we're coming up on 52 minutes here. Let's see. Yeah, we're coming up close here, 52 minutes. I think we should start cutting ties here on the stream, because when this Phillies game is over, we're going to be doing the recap stream of the outcome. So we'll see what happens there. Bottom of the fourth inning, 1 out. Brandon Marsh just lined a single in the right field. So hopefully, and it looks like the Diamondbacks just went to the bullpen. So hopefully the Phillies can do some damage to the Diamondbacks bullpen here. But yeah, we'll see what happens here, boys. But this is going to be some fantastic stuff over the next week, basically, with the NHL. Mitchkov today, Stanley Cup final tomorrow, and then the draft later at the end of the week. I believe that's on Thursday or Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, fun stuff. Well, we don't have any voicemails here, so we'll definitely end it off. Definitely save it for some Phillies talk later in the day. So guys, I appreciate you for tuning into this breaking news stream of Mitchkov coming over to the Philadelphia Flyers. And yeah, if you are new to the channel, if you viewed this channel for the first time, definitely I recommend you hitting that subscribe button, and it will do me a great deal of service with the YouTube algorithm. I would appreciate it very much. Definitely also drop a like on the video as well to stream as well. Also leave a comment in the comment section down below. And also, they use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SEATGEEK. It does a great deal. Do not pass it up. I appreciate everyone and you joining here today, this morning, this early afternoon, talking some Philadelphia Flyers puck. And yeah, I'll see you later on.